Hey, what's up, everyone? It is January the 2nd, 2024. A new year, a new BRAP. I should say new BRAP because we've been around for quite some time. But nevertheless, welcome to BRAP. It's the first BRAP rant of 2024 of the new year. First, I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. Hope everyone had a great holiday and had a great New Year's. 2024 should be another great year for gaming. Maybe not as great as 2023. 2023 was really stacked. In fact, I'm actually playing what many consider to be the game of the year 2023, Baldur's Gate 3. About 330 hours into Baldur's Gate 3 with my second playthrough, I might add. So it's a combination of my first and second playthrough where I've logged 330 hours. This is probably the most I've logged into any single player game ever. It's truly a phenomenal game. The second playthrough has opened up so many different story arcs. One in particular, I had a conversation with my coworker this morning, who's also playing Baldur's Gate 3. One in particular that comes to mind is there's in Act 2. There's a combat or there's a fight that takes place in Act 2 where the character Isabel is being abducted by somebody who is a flaming fist who has turned his back, has become a bad guy, who is I forget his name now. Is it Michael? I can't remember his name now. Now I'm gonna have to look this up. But yeah, he is sided with the bad guys now. Let me see here. What is his name? This is gonna drive me crazy. All right, let me see who this is here. Marcus. I said Michael. Marcus tries to kidnap Isabel, who is somebody you meet in Baldur's Gate 3. This person's actually at the Last Light Inn. So Marcus comes to abduct Isabel, take her back to Moonrise Tower. And so something happened. Actually, the first playthrough, I did not beat Marcus, and he actually successfully kidnapped Isabel, but this time around I actually beat Marcus, and so that opened up a whole new story arc, which I hadn't experienced the first playthrough. So this game is just phenomenal. I've been playing it quite a bit, especially over the holiday break. But again, Happy New Year to everyone in the live chat. Thank you everyone for coming by. Very impromptu rant. By the way, I think I just tweeted out the link about 30 minutes ago, so very impromptu. And one of the reasons why I'm doing a live stream this afternoon is because tomorrow is my birthday, January the 3rd. And so I'm actually not, there will be no regular scheduled BRAP at 9 p.m. Eastern time, as it is my birthday and I'll be celebrating. But we'll be back next Wednesday at a regular scheduled time at 9 p.m. Eastern time for BRAP. Neil S. just said, I just did that fight scene yesterday. Neil, did you beat Marcus or did he capture Isabel? Yeah, Abdi, I did hear about the save bug issue on the Xbox version of Baldur's Gate 3, that some people have lost complete save files. Yeah, that's always unfortunate when you hear those things, when you hear those bugs. There were some bugs on the PC release of Baldur's Gate 3, specifically in Act 3, where people weren't able to progress. Thank you, Matty Beast. I appreciate that. Matty Beast says, happy birthday, brother. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so again, we'll be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time for our regular scheduled BRAP. Chronoric says, now I have something to listen to at work. Yes, we'll keep this a work-friendly show then. But again, birthday tomorrow, so looking forward to celebrating that. And So I want to give a big shout out to Gaming Forte. I don't know if Forte's listening, but all I have to say is go blue. Michigan Wolverines won a nail biter yesterday. Actually, both of the semifinal games were actually really good. The Washington Texas game came down to the end, and then obviously the Michigan game came down to came down to overtime, to a fourth down play for Alabama to score to tie the game up. Thank you, DLS. Oh, you beat him, Neil. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so if you don't beat him, Neil, so that now that you beat him, you're gonna have a different experience than I had. Well, I already had this experience for the second playthrough, but if you don't beat him, there's a different playthrough or a different story arc, different experience if you don't beat him. Brett, was it cool having your birthday so close to Christmas while growing up? Yeah, sometimes because. Some years it was because I would get Christmas gifts and then a birthday gift, and then sometimes the birthday and Christmas gifts were combined. So, like on Christmas, I get both my birthday and Christmas gifts. So sometimes that wasn't. Sometimes that wasn't to my benefit. Oh man, Bender Strings, you really refer to Nick Saban as Nick Satan? Oh man. Yeah, this is the third year in a row Alabama will not. It's been 3 years since Alabama won a national championship. This is the longest national championship drought for under the Nick Saban era. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Michigan. So big shout out to Gaming Forte. Forte, if you're listening, go blue. I was rooting for Michigan last night. Hell of a game. Happy to see Michigan advance to the finals here. They'll be playing Washington. Should be a great game. Michael Penix Jr. at QB had a great game last night. So, as many of you know, I'm a Commanders fan, Washington Commanders fan, and so we, as it stands, have the second pick in the NFL draft. And look, Caleb Williams he's trending right now on Twitter. And there's a lot of conversation with the second pick in the draft if the Washington Commanders will be trading or not be trading, if they'll draft Caleb Williams. Now, Caleb Williams is actually from the D.C. metro area. So if he was drafted, assuming the Chicago Bears, who have the first pick, don't draft Caleb Williams, which I don't know. It's kind of interesting. If you are the Bears, do you draft Caleb Williams? Wish B Money was here, and I'd love to ask B Money, pick his brain. He's a Bears fan. I mean, because look, they have Justin Fields. You know, Caleb Williams is the, depending who you listen to, is the number one QB prospect. I've heard others say Drake May out of North Carolina is. But for the Bears, they draft Caleb Williams. I don't know. I mean, you could actually trade that top pick and maybe load up with some draft picks. I mean, the Bears, the Bears are 7-9. 7-9 right now. With Justin Fields at QB. Justin Fields for the year has a QB rating of 85.8. Has thrown 16 TDs, 9 interceptions. He's passed for 2,400 yards. I mean, I don't know. Do you draft Caleb Williams? I don't know. Maybe. I think for the Commanders, they probably end up drafting Caleb Williams because they're probably not convinced with the production of, or how well, look, Sam Howell was kind of falling off the his production's kind of fallen off quite a bit, which has led to his benching. Yeah, see, Mattaby says Fields is in a contract year. That's true. Yeah, maybe they don't want to invest that money. I don't know. I don't know. You know, and I got to say, I think if Sam Howell actually had a decent offensive line, maybe he wouldn't have fallen off towards the latter part of the year. He took a beating. Led the league in sacks. I mean, the interception that he threw against the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday, he was under duress. Nick Bosa was right in his face. Trying to pull up Sam Howell stats here. Thank you, True King Gaming. Appreciate the birthday wishes. Thank you, Texas Lean. Appreciate the early birthday wishes. I'm trying to pull up all right, so here's Sam Howell's QB rating, 79.5. He's thrown 20 TDs, 19 interceptions. He's been sacked 61 times. 61 times. And he looked good. Look, he looked good early in the year. I just think that the beating he took this year probably took a toll on him. To be sacked and under pressure all those times, that's quite a learning curve for I mean, look, let's face it. This is his rookie season. I can't, I mean, I think if they had a good offensive line that protected him, I don't think you see. OBJ to Don says Howell's too short. Howell's not that short, OBJ. Howell's 6'1". So, OBJ, since you live in the DMV, and I believe you're a Commanders fan, do you think that the Commanders should draft, assuming he's available, assuming the Bears don't draft Caleb Williams? But let's say they do draft Caleb Williams. Should they take a quarterback at number 2? Either be it Caleb Williams or Drake May? I don't know. Because whether or not you draft Caleb Williams or Drake May, you still have an issue with the offensive line. Yeah, Mattaby says picking second, get a left tackle. I don't disagree. I'm probably one of the few that thinks that, hey, you know what? Sam Howell with a good offensive line could be a decent quarterback. I just think it's a lot to ask of him as a rookie quarterback to be able to read defenses quickly and get through his reads if he's under duress all the time, if he's under pressure. 61 sacks? I mean, we made the Giants defense look like an all-pro line. OBJ says, yeah, take Caleb. Caleb's the same height as Howell, OBJ. Caleb's 6'1", same height as Sam Howell. Now Drake May's 6'6", also out of North Carolina. Yeah, I think, although I with new ownership, a new GM, it's going to be interesting who they get as their GM. But I'm assuming that the GM's going to obviously going to evaluate Sam Howell And if they feel like he's not it, they'll draft a quarterback. Or if they feel like if they feel like they can't pass up a quarterback at 2, given the talent, then yeah, I mean, I see them doing that, drafting another quarterback. Yeah, Caleb is super mobile, though. I mean, he is. He's got a good arm. He's mobile, can create plays on his feet, keep plays alive. He might need that, considering the line they have. But they're gonna have to address that offensive line at some point. And they do have $90 million in cap space. Maybe they address, and I don't know what free agents are available, offensive linemen that are available that they can plug in. No, Caleb is 6'1". Hey, OBG, are you? What do you think of the Wizards potentially moving to Alexandria? Yeah, some of the concern with Caleb, though, and we talk about his mobility, is that he often doesn't go through his progressions, and he looks for the big play as opposed to sometimes taking what the defense gives him. And I don't know how much of that you can do in the NFL, considering how much faster the game is compared to the collegiate level and the level of talent in the NFL compared to the collegiate level. All right, I promise you this is not a football podcast, but I just saw Caleb Williams trending on Twitter, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Commanders do with the second or third pick this year. I'm assuming they're locked. I don't know if they're necessarily locked in for the second. I know they're at number 2 right now. True King says BRAP Washington drafted RG3 and Kirk Cousins. They did, and the reason it's interesting. The Shanahans, or I should say Mike Shanahan in particular, did not want to draft RG3. That's the story behind that draft. They did not. That was a Dan Snyder move. That was just Snyder thinking about selling tickets. But they picked Kirk Cousins up. They drafted Kirk Cousins. They felt like Kirk Cousins was the better quarterback, and they weren't wrong. The Shanahans got it right. OBJ Dada says, I really don't care about the Wiz movie because they're disrespecting the game of basketball right now. Yes, they are. The Wizards are horrible. Horrible. I'm convinced they're never going to win another NBA championship. They're just terrible. 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 All right. So let's get to the gaming related topics here. So PlayStation is actually, let me pull up the article now so I can discuss some news items here. Sony's been fined 13.5 million euros by France's antitrust regulator. I'm not going to try to pronounce the antitrust regulator. It's like authority of like commerce, basically, in French. They have accused the platform holder of restricting third-party PlayStation 4 controllers. So this is an article that I pulled up from GameIndustry.biz. Credit to Sophie McEvoy, who's a staff writer who wrote this article today. The article goes on to state that Sony's been fined $13.5 million by French antitrust regulator, which has accused the company of abusing its dominant position in the market by restricting third-party PlayStation 4 controllers. And now this was filed by the regulator last month as a referral from French controller manufacturer Subsonic. Its investigation found that Sony put counterfeiting measures in place in November 2015 that caused third-party controllers to regularly disconnect from the console during system updates. So Sony's saying, hey, we don't want you using that third-party stuff. We want you to use our stuff. The competition regulator also found that third-party manufacturers face difficulty in joining its licensing program, which alleged that Sony refused to communicate terms and criteria to manufacturers who'd request it. The article goes on to say that the combination of these two practices significantly damaged the brand image of the third-party manufacturers affected. The trade body said, adding, with regard to both players and distributors, slowing down their expansion of the market and leading to their possible foreclosure. So, Game Industry Biz has reached out to Sony for comment. We have no comment from Sony, but this is interesting. I mean, basically the third-party controller saying, hey, look, we try to put out a controller. Sony made it very hard for us to do this, and when we did, they put in software that caused the controllers to disconnect and not work, and therefore these controllers we put out not working impacted our reputation in the market. It made it difficult for us to expand in the market, and maybe potentially hurting their business to a point where it led to potential foreclosure or possible foreclosure. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Who knows if Sony will respond? Probably not. I would imagine they will. But again, this goes to show that there's a lot of talk back in the days that the European Union would only protect PlayStation, and that is not the case. That is not the case. No Mad Cats in France. Oh, it's not, by the way, Abdi, it's not 13 billion. It's 13. If I said billion, I apologize. It's 13.5 million euros. So not billion. I'm not sure about Michael. I'm not sure about Microsoft. They're doing the same thing. I think they were doing something similar, maybe with third-party control. I'd have to go back and look. I don't recall. I'd have to go back and look at the pull the article for that. Also, Game Industry, they presented their year-end numbers for 2023. So they do this every year, where they provide their annual infographic of the best-selling games, the biggest mobile markets, global revenue. And it's something that they push out every year, and a lot of the information they get, the global games market, that's courtesy of Newzoo. Total box versus digital revenues also via Newzoo. Biggest mobile games, publishers and countries, both by revenue downloads. That's from Sensor Tower. Best-selling games in the UK is from GfK, US from Circana, Japan from Famitsu. So these are some of the sources where they compile a lot of this information that they share. So let's get to the year numbers for 2023. The gaming market, the global games market value, was at a total of 184 billion, and that's up 0.6% year over year. Browser PC games accounted for 1.9 billion in revenue. That is down 16.9% year over year. Downloaded box PC games accounted for downloaded boxed PC games accounted for 38.4 billion. That's up 5.2% year over year. By the way, I should also mention that they have a pie chart here that shows the breakdown. So browser PC games contribute to 1% of that total 184 billion that I mentioned earlier. The downloaded box PC games accounted for 21%. We're going to go to mobile games here. It's mobile games accounted for 90.4 billion. That was down 1.6% year over year. That accounted, give you an idea how big the mobile space is. That accounted for 49% of that 184 billion. Console games, 53.2 billion. That is up 1.9% year over year. That was 29% of that 184 billion. So it gives you an idea of how big mobile games are. I mean, I think many of us have always known that mobile games are a big piece of the pie. Froggy T. Wright says, how much of the decrease do you think is from the exit of COVID? I would imagine there's probably some impact there, yeah. Happy New Year to you as well, Froggy. Yeah, I think that's there's probably some correlation there between, we saw the impact that COVID had on video games, on the gaming industry. At a very, people were buying, video games out the wazoo during the pandemic. as we were looking for ways to keep entertained and pass time, while many of us were, on lockdown, if you will. But yeah, I think some of that, absolutely. I think that COVID, because we see that in other industries where there's kind of a right sizing effect as, we transitioned out of COVID and, out of lockdowns, things like that. But, for a guy, I can't say, I couldn't put a percentage like how much of a decrease was attributed because of coming out of COVID, but I'm sure there's impact there. All right, go look at box versus digital games. This is always a conversation people have about digital versus boxed. Global physical game revenue. Again, this is boxed. This is per Newzoo, $9.5 billion. That was down 3.8% year over year. Global digital game revenue, $174.5 billion. Now, that was up 0.8%. Now, there isn't a. I'll give you the breakdown here of PC versus console, because they further break that down. But that gives you an idea of just global physical games in general revenue versus global digital games revenue for the entire gaming industry. Now, again, they do break this down. So if you look at the PC. If you look at the PC space, 99% was digital. Nobody should be shocked by that. In the console market, 83% was digital, 17% box. So that's a pretty big gap now. I think at one point it had been 50-50. That was a couple years ago. Maybe 2 years ago, I think. I have to go back and look. Yeah, see, Neil S. says the time gating content just to squeeze more money out of you is the most annoying part of a lot of mobile games. All right, and then if we look at the best-selling games of the year in the U.S., this is per Circana. So this is the first time in quite some time that Call of Duty's not number one. Because usually when Call of Duty enters the market, it is, within the first 2 weeks is like the top-selling game of the year in the U.S. So if you look at the U.S. numbers here, Hogwarts Legacy is actually the top-selling game for 2023 per Circana in the U.S. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is number 2. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, number 3. The PlayStation exclusive Marvel Spider-Man 2 was the number 4 best-selling game of the year. That's huge. Considering I'd be curious to see what the attach rate is of Marvel Spider-Man 2, but that's just huge. Madden NFL 24 was number 5. Diablo 4 was number 6. Call of Duty Modern Warfare Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was number 7. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is number 8. Mortal Kombat 1 is number 9. 10 is Starfield. So I want to say something, because this is not Legend of Zelda is Tears of the Kingdom is not I wouldn't consider a AAA game, but it's for Nintendo, it's a big game. It's like a AAA game for them, but I can't imagine that The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is on that AAA budget per se. But I would say for Nintendo, it's kind of like their AAA. But there's been a lot of conversation over the holiday that I saw on Twitter, and I wasn't really commenting on Twitter as much. But I saw people were kind of weaponizing the argument of AAA games not being sustainable per se, and using that to weaponize it against Sony. And it's like, I think there's something to be said. If you look at the best-selling games of the year, all the best-selling games are AAA games. for last year. So what that tells me, as a consumer, which somebody's just looking at the numbers here too, that consumers want AAA games. They want these big blockbuster titles. And so long as that demand signal's there, the publishers are still going to make AAA games. And what I said on last week's BRAP rant was that what Sony's acknowledging is that, yeah, it isn't sustainable to only do AAA games, I think, which is a piece that people missed. Which is why you see publishers doing, you look at EA as an example, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. EA also does smaller titles. They also have that cash cow, Madden NFL 2024. They also have Apex Legends, which is a games as a service, live service game. So they have a diversified portfolio of content, not just AAA games. But I think it's important to note that the market is demanding these types of titles. I mean, just look at the top selling games, the top 10 selling games of 2024, all AAA games here in the U.S. Yeah, Starfield at number 10 is impressive. I think there's a couple things, if you look at Microsoft, Xbox as a publisher, having Activision is going to generate a lot of revenue for them now. Because if you look at it, there's 3 titles in there that are Activision titles: Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and Diablo 4. And they also have Starfield. So, I mean, those acquisitions are going to pay dividends for Microsoft in terms of just revenue as a publisher. It's going to be interesting to see how that transitions over to Game Pass, though, if having those games in their library are enough to really move the needle for Game Pass. All right, going to go to the United Kingdom's best-selling games of the year. Best-selling box games of the year. This is according to GfK. Hogwarts Legacy was number 1. EA Sports FC 24 was number 2. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom 3. Super Mario Brothers Wonder was 4. FIFA 23 is 5. Now, I don't think anyone should be surprised that FIFA and EA Sports FC 24 are up there. I mean, soccer or football, if you will, or is a really big sport in the UK and Europe, much like the NFL is here. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is 6. Marvel Spider-Man 2 is 7. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is 8. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is number 9. And God of War Ragnarok is number 10. It's a little bit of some difference there compared to the U.S. You don't see Marvel Spider-Man 2 there. In the UK's best-selling box games of the year. Should mention emphasis on boxed. Actually, I should mention that digital sales also not include in the U.S. Top 10 best-selling games of the year. In Japan, this is according to Famitsu. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was number 1. Super Mario Brothers Wonder 2. Pikmin 4, number 3. Pokemon Scarlet Violet 4. Mario Kart 8, 5. Mario Kart Deluxe is 5. Kirby's Return Dreamland 6. Momotaro Destiny World was 7. Splatoon was 8. Splatoon 3 is number 8. Final Fantasy 16, 9. Super Mario RPG 10. So they just Nintendo across the board for the most part. I'm not surprised by that either. All right, Metacritic's top 3, 96, 96, and 94. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was 96. Baldur's Gate 3 was 96. And Asgard's Wrath 2 was 94. So those are the top 3 Metacritic games of 2023. All right, we'll go to let's go to the a sec here. All right, top countries by consumer spending in video games. The U.S. at $20.4 billion, China at 13.9 billion, Japan at 11.8 billion, South Korea at 4.2, and Taiwan at 2.1. And that's the mobile market, by the way. I should have mentioned that, the mobile market. I'm not going to get to all the mobile market numbers here. Well, if you look at, okay, I'm going to go to the top mobile market for top gaming publishers. Tencent, number one, at 7.8 billion. Activision, 2.4 billion. Playrix at 2.38 billion. NetEase at 2.37 billion. And MiHoYo at 2.32 billion. Now, again, that is top game publishers for the mobile market. All right, the most covered games. This is according to ICO via Footprints. Starfield, number one. Diablo 4, 2. Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom 3. Fortnite 4. Cyberpunk 2077, 5. Marvel Spider-Man 2, 6. Final Fantasy 16, 7. Minecraft 8. Baldur's Gate 3, 9. League of Legends 10. I'm just going to read the top 10 here. Most covered companies, again, per ICO via Footprints. The Xbox with 308,000 articles, that's down 16%. PlayStation, 268,000, which is down 15%. Nintendo, 244,000, which is down 9%. Microsoft, 189,000, which is up 6%. Sony, 115,408 articles, which is down 25%. And Activision Blizzard, 80,500 articles. That's up 172% year over year. One has to imagine that has to do with the ABK acquisition. All right, let's go to most viewed game trailers. This is interesting. Grand Theft Auto 6 at 101.6 million. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 at 38.5 million. League of Legends at 31 million. Honkai Star Rail at 23. Marathon at 20. And that was the Marathon reveal trailer. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, 20 million. EVE Online, 24 million. Marvel Spider-Man 2 at 19 million. Valorant at 19.5 million. Genshin Impact version 4.1 at 9.2 million. All right, so those are some data points from GameIndustry.biz for 2023. I'd have to go back and look at 2022 numbers. Be interested to look at those in terms of, most covered games, most covered companies. I like to look at the split between digital and physical purchases. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not too shocked about Starfield. I mean, it was Microsoft's first, big AAA exclusive. Well, I should say, I know. I would say most anticipated AAA exclusive of the gen, and really their first, or second actually, because Redfall had released on the series consoles, but really their first big AAA exclusive that was highly anticipated. And it was, and I think it was one of those games that, if you look at the reviews, was I think if you looked at the reviews of Starfield, I mean, it was, I wouldn't say it was, I would say Starfield, the reviews of Starfield were mostly positive, but I mean, there was some conversation around the game. There was some, there were some people who felt like it wasn't as good as they initially thought that Starfield might be. If you look at the Steam user reviews, for by the community for Starfield are pretty low right now. They've actually slipped, have declined since. And I don't know what the I think they were like at. I'd have to go back and look at the. Actually, let me look at that real quick. Let me see here. Look at Starfield here. Where are the user reviews here? Where are the Starfield user reviews? I'm trying to look it up here on Steam. Of course, Steam's taking its... Oh, here we go. Let's go to Starfield. All right, Starfield currently $48 on Steam, by the way. Yeah, it's right now it's under mixed review. So 64% of the 88,983 user reviews for this game are positive. So it's at a 64%. Recent reviews, it's mostly negative. 29% of the 7,154 user reviews in the last 30 days are positive. So 29%. That's pretty low.
Humanity has always hunted for knowledge in the unknown.
I feel like the word I wouldn't describe the Starfield reviews as divisive per se, but there's definitely some back and forth. It's just one of those games I think that just didn't deliver the way or hit the way some people thought it might. Yeah, I agree with Brian East. Like, I don't think Starfield's a terrible game. I just don't think it was a. Player says, I don't know how you can play a game for 100 hours plus and leave a negative review, because people do. I mean, like, it's at a 64%. And the other thing, player, some of those people who review the game probably didn't make it to 100 hours. I don't think you have to play 100 hours of a game to, I see keep saying 700 hours in Starfield and give negative reviews. I don't know. I haven't seen anyone who's played the game for 700 hours and given it a negative review. Well, I mean, I think I don't disagree, player, but I think Starfield's a good game. I don't think it's a great game, and I think it's the worst game outside of Fallout 76 that Todd Howard and company put out. I definitely think that the last Fallout was better. The last Elder Scrolls is better. Hey, Ice Queen Gaming, Happy New Year. I just don't think. God, Emperor Pacific, there's been YouTubers that have been out there making vids that are negative that have started hate camp. I mean, okay, but I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. Hate camp, whatever. I mean, look, you look at it. I think it's a good game. I just don't think it is. It is a game that, and I've said this before in the show. I think it's a game that uses a design philosophy that worked, 10, 20 years ago. I don't think that the design philosophy works this year, or not, or this this generation. Coming off of, I was playing Baldur's Gate 3 right before Starfield came out, and the story arcs and the dialogue trees, the dialogue branches, a lot of those things just felt empty to me in comparison to Starfield. Like I talked about this last week, I said, marrying Sarah in Starfield was like, and having that relationship with her was like having a relationship with a blow-up doll. Not that I would know what that's like personally, but I'm just saying, like, that's blow-up dolls don't have personality is my point, but I just didn't think it was that great. I think the voice acting was very dry at times. I mean, hey, you know what? God bless the person who felt like they needed to spend 8 hours to put a deep dive into how much they hate Starfield. I mean, that's, yeah. I guess some people have time like that. Like, I guess some people have enough time on their hands to make 8-hour videos, and yeah, that's just not me. Yeah, that's the thing. Neo S brings up a great point. If they approached dialogue choice consequence more like Baldur's Gate 3, better character models and animations, it'd be way more immersive. That's exactly it. You know, I went from Baldur's Gate 3 into that, and there was times where Starfield just really broke the immersive. There were times where I was immersed in Starfield 3, and then I go to a dialogue, and the lack of consequence just broke the immersion for me. Do you think a lot of content creators are using Starfield as clickbait to get views on their channel? I'm sure some are, but who cares? I don't care. I mean, that's what happens on YouTube. That's what content creators do. They're trying to drive monetization on their channels. I gave Starfield an 8 out of 10. But I wouldn't disagree with someone giving it a 7 out of 10. But again, I just think Starfield was just, I think the design philosophy of Starfield is just outdated to me. And that's coming off Baldur's Gate 3. For the things you mentioned, Neil, like I 100% agree with you, Neil. Look, they had better narratives though. God, Emperor Sofa King. I mean, the narrative in Skyrim I thought was better. And again, this is, but also, God, you got to remember something. You're talking about previous Bethesda games. Those things worked when those games came out. So you're saying, yeah, but we're talking about Bethesda games. They never had groundbreaking narratives. They did at the time when those games released. That's why I said the design philosophy is just outdated now, in my opinion. I just think I don't think it works. You look at like Baldur's Gate 3, you look at the immersive dialogue choices you have or dialogue sequences you have with the NPCs and the relationship building. It was so much more in depth than Starfield. You know, so I would like to see Todd Howard and company. Like I just don't like the other complaint I have with Starfield is like the ability to interact with everything and get things and you know, pick up plates and paper napkins and things like why? Neil says, BRAP, Larian had them beat even their previous game, Divinity Original Sin 2, which didn't have anywhere close to the resources they had with Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, Divinity's another one. Divinity Original Sin 2, which is probably a game I'm going to play. It was actually a top-rated game for Larian. Yes, Brian, thank you. Brian says that the changes had impact in Baldur's Gate 3 as well as all characters have the potential of being killed or dying and can affect the story. Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I'm experiencing that right now in my second playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3 where there were certain characters that died. One particular comes to mind. And now and that person didn't die this second playthrough, and it just opened up a different story arc and created a newer experience. And this is my second playthrough. The way choice impacts Baldur's Gate 3 is what I was hoping for in Starfield. I would say player for me, open world RPGs where you have dialogue choices. Yes, Baldur's Gate 3 is the standard. And not for all RPGs, by the way. Again, just listen to what I'm saying. For RPGs that have you know, that give you a tremendous amount of player provenance and have a lot of different dialogue choices. Absolutely. And where those choices have consequences and impact the direction of the story and how that's told. Yeah, absolutely. Baldur's Gate 3 in that regard is a standard for those types of RPGs. Not for all RPGs, because all RPGs are designed differently, but for those types of RPGs. Like, seriously, Baldur's Gate 3 to me is just it is one of the best games I've ever played. And I've been gaming for 40-something years. It's at times it's really hard for me to so Dragon Age, Witcher, what? So Dragon Age, Witcher, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. I mean, again, those are different. Witcher's probably closer to a Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, different type of RPG. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 is a CRPG. Yeah, Dragon Age had choices too. Dragon Age was good at its time. It was really good. But what Larian has done, and I think Neil can kind of attest to this, is that you know, it's just they have elevated that genre, in my opinion. Larian has, and I shouldn't say they did it with from what the reviews that I've read with Divinity Original Sin 2. I mean, that was there with that particular game. What we're discussing here, and again, I haven't played Divinity Original Sin 2, but that's definitely on my wish list. But yeah, to me, I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 is the bar now for those open world, you know, games that give you a tremendous amount of player provenance, where your dialogue choices impact the story and the characters and things like that you interact with. And I got to say that the turn-based combat in Baldur's Gate 3 is just really good. The use of level design, geometry to in that game, and how you interact with that in certain combats can be the difference between having a pleasurable combat experience versus getting wiped out. God Emperor says combat hurts BG3 to me. Yeah, I can see that. I can see why some people wouldn't like the turn-based combat. You know, but I say my second playthrough, I'm running through it and having better engagements, combat engagements, because I know how to play the game now. All right, so that leads me into, I've seen a lot of conversation around 2024 being the best year for Xbox this generation, and every year Ryan McCaffrey writes a What to Expect article for Xbox. He just released his article on December 28th of what to expect from Xbox in 2024. I've seen a lot of Xbox-centric podcasts, which I often take with a grain of salt because I tend to think they overhype what to expect in the Xbox. And the issue I have with the Xbox Central podcast, they always overpromise, and the Xbox and the Xbox just never meets that benchmark that these podcasts have set for the platform. I've always said, people, look, let Xbox, let them breathe, let them do their thing. They did it with Starfield. Oh, it's gonna be a game of the gen. They're doing it with Hellblade 2. Let the game come out. Then have the conversation about the game post-release. But I have seen a lot of people say this is going to be Xbox's best year, 2024. It does look like we don't have a firm date for Avowed, but it looks like Avowed may be one of those games released in 2024. Hellblade 2, we know, is slated for 2024. We don't have a specific release date. But I gotta say, I do like those two particular games. Now, as many of you know, I let my Game Pass subscription lapse. So for me, what I'm looking to see, me personally, is if Microsoft releases enough content for me to jump back into Game Pass. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But assuming Avowed comes out in 2024, which it's slated to. We don't have a firm release date. But those two games are two games that I would definitely pick up. Game Pass is too cheap for people our age. What does that mean, too cheap for people our age? What does that mean, player? JC, 8,000 worth of game, 8,000 not enough for you? No, it's sometimes less is more. JC, like I'm not like what am I gonna have? First of all, when am I gonna have time to play 8,000 games? You know what I mean? Like when? I bought into Game Pass because Microsoft. The biggest appeal to me of a Game Pass wasn't the volume of games, like this big buffet. We're in our 40s. Game Pack is nothing this age. Okay, player. So what? So what does that mean? Are you saying that I should, because I'm in my 40s, I should be on Game Pass because it's cheap? I don't understand that. You mean the cost is nothing? That's fine. So here's the thing, player. Cost is one thing. It's whether or not you value that cost. Is the $180 worth it? Yeah, it's not. Is $180,000 or $180 a year for Game Pass Ultimate a lot? No, not for me. It's not. It's not. JC's, do I have PlayStation Plus? Yes, I do. I do have it. But this is where the conversation is subjective. Everyone has. Yes, JC, that's exactly what I'm telling you. I find more value in PlayStation Plus. Absolutely. I see more value. And this is the problem. This is the problem with this conversation. People go, oh, I can't believe you subscribe to PlayStation Plus, but you don't like Game Pass. And then like JC, oh, that's crazy to me. Why is it crazy? I mean, there's more there's actually more games in actually there's not 8,000 games in Game Pass, by the way. There's actually more games in PlayStation Plus than they are Game Pass. So, anyhow, oh, you said $8,000 worth of games. Okay, and $8,000 worth of those are. But so what? Those aren't games that I'm going to play. Player's like, I sorry. We have to question your integrity on that. No, what do you mean question my integrity? Like what do you guys like? I don't understand. Like why? I'm like. Look, player. If you value Game Pass over PlayStation Plus, great for you. You've made a choice as an adult, as a consumer. There's nothing to question. There's no question of integrity here. That's just fanboy console war stuff. It's dumb. It's dumb. Yeah, like Sam Walton said, different tastes for different folks. But people on here want to like, oh, you have to justify your purchase. What makes PlayStation Plus a better value for me? The games that are in there. The first party content that's in there. And actually, I should mention this too. there's a lot of like JRPG or Japanese titles that are in there that I like, that I can play. But I like the games. But see, this is the problem. Like people just like, they like, I just, for me, like when I got into what I wanted to, what interests me in Game Pass was Microsoft saying, hey, we're going to give you our first party stuff day and date. And to me, I was looking at the AAA releases and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, AAA? At the time it was 120 a year. I'm like, oh, this is great. And I just haven't seen that consistent cadence of AAA. Now that could change. If Microsoft starts releasing more AAA games that I'm interested in, then I would absolutely jump back into Game Pass. But this idea, like this console war stuff, like where people are like, oh, I can't believe you don't subscribe to Game Pass. It's so dumb. Just stop. We all value things differently. Like player, you don't find value in PlayStation Plus. Good for you. Good for you that you as a consumer said, you know what, I'm not going to subscribe to this. No, I don't console war, player. I don't console war. I don't console war. I mean, you've listened to this podcast enough to know that. Matter of fact, last week I was talking about how I want to see Microsoft and Xbox compete more because it's better for consumers. It's better for consumers. The problem is with people like you, player, you think that if people don't toe the line for a particular platform, that it's console wars. It's not console wars. I just didn't find the ROI to be there in Game Pass. But you think because I prefer PlayStation Plus, I'm somehow console war? No. I just prefer the content that they have in PlayStation Plus. I'm player. I'm not choosing a side. Like this is the frustrating part about this conversation. This is how kids think. Player. You're just choosing a side. No one's choosing a side. I'm choosing what I find value in. I mean, is that your mentality, player? Where people buy, I don't know, a Honda over a BMW? Hey, why'd you buy that BMW? You must be choosing a side. I mean, I don't. That's such a weird mindset. Frankly, it's grossly immature. It's like, oh, you bought a Cadillac, like you said. You can't believe that. So what? Like I don't understand. Like who cares? Like if you were, I think if you. No, my Twitter persona is pretty much the same as my podcast persona. I just call out the, if you've been listening to the show, I just call out the stupidity of the console warring stuff, and the amount of misinformation, disinformation that is presented on social media, on Twitter in particular, as a result of console wars. Yes, I primarily play on PlayStation or on PC. PC is my primary platform of choice. I have look, and when Microsoft first party releases a good game, I buy it. I buy whatever I see value in or what's of interest to me. That's what all consumers do. But I believe some of you probably interact on certain platforms because you have some kind of affinity to them, which is weird. So, I mean, again, everyone, like if you're arguing about, Game Pass being better, if you think Game Pass is better, that's awesome. That's good for you. But understand and have the awareness to understand that not everybody thinks the same way as you or sees value in the same things you see value in. Sam Walton said it best. People don't realize you don't have to pick a side. That's a great point, Sam. You don't have to pick a side. You don't have to pick a side. And you have players like, you didn't tell us what games you're playing on PlayStation Plus. Why does it matter what games I'm playing? All you need to be concerned with is that actually, you don't need to be concerned with anything. All you need to know is that I prefer PlayStation Plus. I interact with PlayStation Plus more. I've had both services. I find myself interacting with PlayStation Plus more, which is why I kept it. Now, as a consumer, you want to know if you are a hypocrite. Player, that is so weird, dude. Player, how old are you, man? Seriously. We're going to get into the psychology of your mindset here. I hope you're not in your 40s. Because if you're in your 40s, this is some grossly immature thought process that you have. Like, understand this, player. You should have, as an adult, the ability, the cognitive ability. You're going to be 46? Oh, my God. Jesus, Jones. I can't. I can't. Like, I'm having the kind of conversation with you, player, that I might have with my 9-year-old son. You're so concerned about trying to figure out if someone's a hypocrite over video games? Are you kidding me? Like, I don't care if you've been gaming since the NES days. You and I are close to age, and this is your thought process? Oh, I want to find out if BRAP's a hypocrite. Like, are you serious? You are part of the problem with the dialogue around video games. Why would you question my integrity over video games? Are you serious? That is so weird. That is grossly immature. That is like you are thinking like a teenager thinks. I tell you, man. Like, well, I don't understand why. Like, you cannot comprehend that people find value in things differently, and that people find value in things differently than you. You can't leave. You have to chalk it up to some kind of lack of integrity. Like, why does it matter to you? That's weird. Like, that's so weird. I mean, you're going to be 46 and this is how you think? Come on, man. You got to do better. People find value in things differently. I didn't use, people like God person, people like different things. My reasons for getting into Game Pass and my expectation of ROI weren't met. If Game Pass is meeting your expectation in terms of ROI, I'm not going to question that. Why? Who cares? Why do I care? Yeah, I'm running a show about gaming and I have different preferences. Like, you should be mature enough to understand that. You should be mature enough, player, to understand that people have an interest in different things. We just talking, that's all? Talking about what? We're not talking about anything. We're not talking about anything that's significant here. This is not that show. You've been here long enough to understand. We're not having those kind of conversations where it's like, keep the same energy, man. Where's your integrity, man? That's how children speak. They're adults here. Perhaps you should be asking yourself, player, why you're so emotionally involved and care about what someone's integrity is over video games. I don't understand that. You should ask yourself that question. Integrity over video games? This is entertainment. Video games. Like, what are we talking about here? like I don't like. Please. Oh my God. I can't. I can't. Anyhow, I'm gonna get back to the best year for Xbox. I look again. Hellblade 2, Avowed. Those are the two games that I'm looking forward to from Microsoft this year. And in that regard, if the games do, we know Hellblade 2 is coming out at some point in 2024. Avowed's another game that's slated. I think given the pedigree of Ninja Theory and Obsidian, I think this is probably going to be a better year for Xbox. And I do want to see Xbox hit a better release cadence with some, bigger AAA titles. Not that they all have to be AAA, but I like to see more AAA titles from them. And I think that Hellblade 2 and Avowed those are two games that are potentially a step in the right direction. And not just first party. We know that Stalker 2 is supposed to be released. We don't have a firm release date yet, but we know that Stalker 2 is supposed to be released the first quarter of 2024. So hopefully that game comes out. We know that game was delayed. And I hope to see, not just game releases too from Microsoft, but there's a lot of stuff cooking. So I'm hoping to see some more information on a couple games that I'm looking forward to. Obviously, the Initiative and Crystal Dynamics Perfect Dark remake is one game I'm really looking forward to learning more about. Perfect Dark is one of my favorite 360 titles, and and I'm also interested to see what what other content ABK releases into Game Pass, because those are things, combination of the things I just mentioned, the kind of the games I'm looking forward to, and some of the stuff from ABK, what games get released in Game Pass there. I mean, those could be things that could move the needle for me to get back into Game Pass. No, it's not for player. Look, man, I gotta be honest with you, man. I'm not gonna. I just don't understand. Look, you and I are the same age. I just don't understand your mentality. I just don't. It's a little bit disappointing, frankly, in my opinion, that you're at the age you are, and you're trying to have a conversation of, like you're having the kind of conversation that I see teenagers, well, not even like that I would have with my own 9-year-old. I don't understand that. I mean, it's just it's unfortunate. So you definitely want to see Perfect Dark. Hopefully we see more of that. Also want to see Everwild. Like they teased Rare's Everwild. We know there were some development issues there. Hopefully we get an update on that. State of Decay 3, not I was never really a big State of Decay fan. But there's definitely, there's definitely some things cooking in the pipeline for Microsoft for Xbox. We know about Blade, Avowed, Hellblade 2, like I said, this year. If you're interested in Flight Simulator 2024 will be coming out this year. I'm not a flight simulator. That's not my bag. But I certainly understand people who are excited for that. And again, I can't speak highly enough of Obsidian. I always thought Obsidian was one of Microsoft's best acquisitions, given the talent there. So Avowed, and actually one of the things that really has to be excited about Avowed is that it's set in the Pillars of Eternity RPG universe. So I think Avowed could be a big RPG for the Xbox platform this year. Also want to know. I also want to see a little bit more of Contraband. Remember they showed off Contraband. That's that open world co-op game from Avalanche. These are the developers behind Just Cause. That was announced at the, I think, 2021 Xbox Showcase. I think that's the last that we've heard from anything related to that game. So I would really interested to see what Contraband is. Yeah, Neil S. is right. I agree. A lot of promising titles in the works for Xbox. Hope we get some solid bangers for them. Yeah. Abdi said Indiana Jones gameplay reveal. Yeah, I would love to see that from Xbox. So look, I'm going to say I think there again. I said this earlier. I think that there's some good things cooking in the pipeline. The only question I have is, are they going to be able to stick the landing? Because they haven't always stuck the landing with some of their exclusive content. But I definitely think there's a lot to look forward to. I'm also interested to see, like, if we're going to hear anything from the Coalition. So we know the Coalition's moving to Unreal Engine 5. They mentioned this in 2021. But that's been 3 years. So I wonder if we get some kind of Gear 6 trailer or something. I still think they should kill Marcus Phoenix, but that's another conversation. By the way, if you haven't done so, speaking of Game Pass, you haven't played Psychonauts 2, you're doing yourself a disservice. Great game. That's the other great acquisition I thought Microsoft made. Double Fine, Tim Schafer, super talented. All right, so Nintendo. So there's been a lot of conversation around Nintendo Switch 2. When we'll see Nintendo Switch 2, I believe we'll see Nintendo Switch 2 this year. Two reasons I have. Two big reasons. One, we're starting to see that the console sales of the Nintendo Switch are in decline, which is to be expected given this point of the console gen. I mean, this is year 7 of the Nintendo Switch. Released in 2017, so it's not uncommon at this point in the console gen to kind of see. I mean, they've sold over 130 million hardware units, and it's the console, the hardware's starting to show its age now. It's a 7-year-old hardware. It's based on older architecture, so I think that's one reason. I think Nintendo has squeezed as many pennies as they can out of the Nintendo Switch, and we are starting to see the decline in hardware now, again, which isn't uncommon at this point of the console gen. Tricky Game says smoke some weed before playing Psychonauts 2. I tell you, Psychonauts 2 is a really good game. If you have Game Pass, there's no reason why you if you haven't played this game, there's no reason to not play this game, especially if you have Game Pass. It is a gem. It's one of the best games that Microsoft first parties put out in quite some time. And one of the best platformers that I've played this generation. So I do think Nintendo Switch 2 is going to come out this year for that reason, and because the I just mentioned the technology is getting older now. We know that there's another Zelda game in the works. You got to imagine at some point at 7 years, Nintendo may be willing, at this point, ready to move on, especially given the fact that they are seeing a decline in hardware sales right now. And a new shiny toy, if you will, or new hardware will be a way to kind of, jumpstart that, those numbers in terms of console hardware sales for the Switch too. So I think probably. And there was a rumor out there. There was a developer who I'd have to pull this. We talked about this on BRAP, but what I've heard, what's been reported, again, these are rumors that the Switch 2 is probably more of a Q3 2024 release window as opposed to that March release window when they released the Nintendo Switch. But I'm excited for Nintendo Switch too. I'll be there day one. Abby says, I predict Switch 2 will outsell Xbox, PlayStation 5 combined in 2024. Maybe, yeah. What are my thoughts on a PS5 Pro? My quick thoughts, doesn't surprise me that they're going to release, that they would release a PS5 Pro. Play. I don't know. What do you mean the Xbox Live Gold trick again? What's that? I remember hearing about that a couple months ago, but I don't recall. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if PlayStation 5 Pro would come out. It's probably not something I would that I'm looking forward to maybe buying. I say that now because I don't know the specs and what the benefit of the console would be. And again, I primarily game on PC. So, I mean, my PlayStation is really used for, first party stuff and there's some titles there that I may, play or stream on PlayStation Plus, but I don't know. BRAP, do you think the next Xbox will release in 2026? That's the rumor. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe. Maybe. I want to see my biggest thing with Microsoft. I just want them to focus on getting a great release cadence of first party title because they have so many they have so many developers now. They have so many. They have all these studios. They should be cranking out titles at some point. That's what. I want those titles that like I talked about, stick the landing. Look at Redfall. Redfall didn't stick the landing. I think the games they've done really well with some of their smaller releases like Hi-Fi Rush, and Pentiment. But those aren't games that really interest me per se. I want to see some of the bigger titles, like more AAA titles from them. So with the 20, so it's interesting. Like we know that when the Microsoft lawyers accidentally leaked the company's product roadmap, they did show that this current console generation would be 8 years. So I mean, 2026. I don't know. I don't think so, based on that leaked roadmap. But who knows? Hey, what's up, Nate? PlayStation says the problem is games take 5 to 6 years. No, I understand that, but I mean they started acquisitions back in 2017, and it's not like the studios they acquired just started working on games today. I mean, some of the studios that they've acquired had things in the pipeline already. And Nate says 2026 will be way too soon. I think so, Nate. I think so. But again, I do think in terms of just Xbox, 2024 moving forward, I think that there's they have some things cooking, and it's going to be interesting to see how those games turn out. So I think there's some excitement there. At least for me, there is at least. Again, the question for me is whether or not those things will get me back into Game Pass. Maybe not. The other thing for me too, I don't have an Xbox console anymore. My movement within the Xbox ecosystem is done on PC, which, as Nate would agree, if you're going to be in the Xbox ecosystem, the best way to experience the Xbox ecosystem is on PC. Yeah, so if I Yeah, Corey Messi, I don't agree. Like, and I also look things. You know, I do think that after how I kind of often look at the impacts of games, I look at it from a like as a fan, but also as the impact of the business. Like they do need titles that are going to move the needle for the business, for hardware sales, for driving new Game Pass subscriptions, and for also keeping people in Game Pass. That's the other thing people don't talk about: subscription services. We know that there's a thing called churn with subscription services. We also know per Circana and PD that subscription services have stalled on gaming consoles, and I should say subscription growth on game consoles has stalled. We know that the most growth that's occurred with Game Pass has been on the PC part. So I think that there's so that's how I look at those things. Play. That's the one. That's the best thing you've said all day. PC definitely the best place to play. Yeah, Corey. I've heard people say they're not concerned about hardware sales. I'll say this. I'm sure internally they probably are because they're spending money on manufacturing hardware. So player, you I don't know if you have a Series X console. You may or may not, depending on how you game. You may not. You may find yourself not gaming on the Series X anymore. And that's what happened to me. I stopped gaming on the Series X because the experience was just better on PC. I think somebody asked me in live chat about PlayStation 2024. We're going to talk about that next week. Someone says no company will continue to lose money on a product that's not selling. That includes Microsoft. Apex Burst says, how much does that manufacturer cost actually affect them? Because you got to remember, Xbox has Microsoft backing BRAP. Well, yeah, Apex, they do, but if that was the case, they would have still been in the cell phone business. They're scaling back on Surface tablets, and they'd still have Mixer. So, this idea that because they're backed by Microsoft is a given, no, that's not a given at all. And actually, it's a lack of console sales and game sales, which is why they pivoted the way they pivoted. Instead of trying to get gamers to come to them and buy their hardware, they're going to where gamers are. And also, Apex, they also have shareholders to answer to. Yeah, Nate says, once you have a decent PC, there's no need for an Xbox unless you need something portable. Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah, like my kids have a Series X. Actually, we still have two Series X's in the house. My 9-year-old has a Series X, and my 14-year-old has a Series X. And my 14-year-old also has a gaming rig PC. And my 9-year-old has a PlayStation 5 as well. And now my 9-year-old's he just started gaming on PC now. Yeah, Abby says, you do realize Sony, Nintendo, and Xbox are fighting over a cap market? Yeah, there's some truth to that. I mean, Sean Lane has talked about that, Abby. the console space. But gaming's bigger than that. It's why you see PlayStation diversifying and creating content for specific platforms like mobile. So, all right, everyone. I do need to wrap up this BRAP rant. I want to thank everyone for joining me in the live chat here. Again, no BRAP tomorrow as it's my birthday, but we'll be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And look, guys, I'm going to remind the chat again. We're not going to have the kind of conversations of, and I'm going to call you out, player. Of where we're checking people's integrity because they've made a choice as a consumer, or because they see things of value differently than you do. That's the kind of console war stuff I see on Twitter. We're not going to have those conversations in here. It's crazy I even have to say this. Understand, as consumers, we value things differently, and it's as simple as that. And I think it's a bit disingenuous and childish to question someone's integrity because. No, it's not that you get under my skin, player. It's that it's the kind of conversation that we don't want to have in the chat here. We are trying to foster a different community, a different conversation than what you see in other podcast-centric podcast shows, or what you see on Twitter. We're not trying to do that here. I respect everyone's choice for whatever platform they play video games on, because at the end of the day, they're probably playing 90% of the video games that I'm playing. And that's part of the funny thing about, thank you, Mario Heat. This is for grown adults. Exactly. This is the champagne room of gaming conversation. This isn't the McDonald's Playhouse. This is not that show. We're having different conversations here. And it's ridiculous for people to argue over video games when 90% of the time they're playing the same video games but on different platforms. So think about that for a second. I don't have an issue with people play on PlayStation, or people play on Xbox, or people play on PC. People just have different tastes. People gravitate towards different platforms for a variety of different reasons. And when we do talk about Microsoft, because I hear people, you always hate on Xbox. No, when we're talking about Microsoft, we're talking about the business. We're talking about the business based on tangible numbers that are out there. And we're talking about how the business arrived to those numbers, or what drove those numbers. And we do the same thing for PlayStation. We do the same thing on the PC side. PC is the best platform, Mario. So look, just a reminder, this is New Year. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not having those conversations. And it's crazy I even have to say that. If you're on Game Pass, good for you. It's not for me, but if it's for you, cool. If you're not on, I know you're teasing me, Mario Heat. If you're not on PlayStation Plus, cool. If you are, cool. If you're not on PC, well, you should be. That's the only time I'm going to question someone, is that they're not gaming on PC. But on that note, I want to wish everyone here a very happy and prosperous 2024. And I want to thank everyone. This was very impromptu, so I really appreciate everyone coming by, hanging out. Do me a favor. Please hit that like button. Helps the channel out. We have 1 like right now. So if anyone could just smash that like button, I really appreciate it. Again, helps at the channel. If you're new, consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. Maybe do another BRAP rant. Who knows? Maybe this weekend too. So give me a follow on Twitter or X at BRAP_podcast as well. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time.